Hi everyone, Sajid Amit here, and welcome to my review of the Aura, which is an Astell&Kern and VE Vision Ears collaboration. Precision meets emotion. This is the outside box, the external box, of course, and it's got these nice grooves here, this very beautiful lettering, which does inspire a sense of premiumness and luxury, which is what this Aura IM is about. This is the inside box. It looks like faux leather, of course. And these are the IMs. So these IMs are just absolutely stunning. So honestly, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. I bought these in because I wanted to see what they looked like, because I felt the looks were so unique and so picturesque and so stunning that I wanted to see if the sound would hold up to the looks and if it is in fact worth buying. Because I have decided to gear it down, so to speak. So I don't have as many IMs as I used to. I'm also investing in other hobbies like watches. I'm not doing reviews, of course. This review stuff that I do with IMs is, of course, an outcome of my passion for this hobby. So not all hobbies I get into, will generate the same amount of passion in me, of course. But that being said, I really wanted to get these in because as I gear down, I've decided to own only the Aroma Audio Jewels for now, and the Campfire Trifecta. And if you see my ranking, my top IM ranking from last year, you'll see that the Jewel is ranked 1 and the Trifecta is ranked 2. So this, of course, was not ranked at that time, but this would make the top 10 ranking. Is a quick sort of a TLDR, because these are outstanding, not just aesthetically but also sonically, with, of course, certain caveats which may or may not apply to you. So in this review, I'll talk you guys through the overall sense of specs. I'll talk about the frequency response. I'll take you guys through the Music Tech website at the end, because Music Tech did provide this to me, and this is, of course, a limited edition unit. You only have 650 units worldwide, and most of them are sold out. So this is an 11 driver hybrid, guys. So it's got 2 dynamic drivers, 9 BA, and with a 5-way crossover. They have Swiss aluminum shells and plates with T6 heat treatment, and you get cables inside. Of course, I'll show you the unboxing. The unboxing is pretty spectacular. This is one of the cables it comes with. These are supposed to be Effect Audio premium cables, except they don't look very premium. They look premium. I still haven't removed the plastic, as is pretty evident, from the barrel or from the connectors. The connectors did not have plastic, but this one did and does. These cables are fine, guys. They're not, overly premium looking. They're not very cheap looking. I would say they're somewhat cheap looking. They're your usual cheap audio sort of cable fare from Effect Audio. Of course, Effect Audio also has really premium ones, which I've reviewed on this channel in the past, especially the Centurion, which is their flagship as of the time of filming this video. So it does have memory. It is an aesthetic match, but I decided to move on to using an aftermarket cable from Midrange of Effect Audio. Ear Audio, I correct myself. Ear Audio is the company behind this wonderful cable, which is a reasonable aesthetic match with the Aura. So I use this because it's far more ergonomic, it feels more premium, and to my mind it sounds better. So that's it in terms of cables. And of course, I'll leave a link to the Ear Audio cable. You can get in touch with Niranjan, who makes these cables, and tell him I sent you. As for the unboxing, guys, so you get this, of course, and it opens to this whole beautiful sort of unboxing experience. Once this opens, you get this first and foremost. This is where the IM shells reside, of course. This, I assume, is the warranty card information and all that. It's empty now. I guess it had a cable inside, not the warranty card. The warranty card is right here, and this is the warranty card. Of course, it has a serial number inside. You get a pouch if you wanted to. This is clearly leather, so you can carry this in this beautiful leather pouch with this beautiful gold lettering. And you also get this also beautiful and a very different sort of feeling case. I say different because it does take a bit to open it. It does feel handmade, though. It's a certain amount of unevenness going on here. And another cable inside. This is the 3.5, I think. Yeah, it's the 3.5. And this I like because it's flexible. It's soft, and I love this coloration. This sort of bicolor colorway, beige and this shade of brown, which works well with the inside of the shells. So it's a nice aesthetic match, and the stitching is nice. This does feel premium, guys. Much more so than the cable. Of course, the cable was supplied by Effect Audio and not by Vision Ears. And then that's not the end of it. You also get a tray system here, and once this tray opens out, you get more goodies. So this tray opens out and you get this clip to manage your cables if that's your jam. A lot of people like these clips, but oftentimes what happens is you don't get good quality aftermarket clips. Somehow the best clips are made by these IM brands and the cable brands. So this is wonderful. As you could sense, this has a very nice sounding snap. This I think are the tips. So let me just take it out so you can see this better. So the tips I think are housed in this paper container box. Yes, so you have a plethora of tips and mostly silicone as far as I can tell. So I have tip rolled with this, guys, and I have gotten the Aura to sound different with different sets of tips. I do want to say, however, that the stock tips work pretty well. And I think they are tuned with the stock tips. So, I mean, I personally didn't mind the stock tips. As a matter of fact, I used the stock tips for the longest amount of time that I've used to test this IM. This box, I'm yet to, see what's inside. It's probably paperwork. No, it's a cleaning cloth, of course. Maybe, yeah, just one piece of cleaning cloth. So I'll just keep it nicely tucked in case I do end up, needing it in the future. So I don't need it now. So that's the cleaning cloth container. And you get this another box. It's just a maze of boxes. This could be paperwork, right? I mean, what else can it be? Yeah, it's a bunch of paperwork. Warranty card, and I think there's a product guide here. So that's it for the unboxing, guys. I am not superb in terms of dexterity and just working through these boxes and grooves because I think I have fat fingers. I tried learning the guitar, and I think I was okay with bass, but not so much holding a pick and playing the electric guitar, which is something that I've always fancied. A lot of us audiophiles, I think, dreamt of being musicians. Well, at least that's how I feel. So that's unboxing, guys. I will just remove the box, and now I'll talk about the IMs. Okay. So you saw what it comes with. Those tips, by the way, were ASLA SE 1500 or 1500 tips. And I think you also get 4 pairs of mesh filters. And you saw all that, right? The cleaner, the pouch, the clip. It does have a high level of sensitivity at 115 dB. Its impedance is quite low, though, at 10.5. Now, to talk about sound, which is something that I feel like I tend to gravitate more towards, sonically, these IMs are just fantastic. They are fantastic. The frequent response is a bit interesting, and it might look like it's got a bit of treble, and that it does, I have to say. So I'll just hold this up so you can see this better. So it does have a nice bass response. The bass starts rolling off, of course, and it slopes down, and you don't get a lot of bass energy between 200 hertz and 300 hertz. So it's not very mid-bassy, but it's got mid-bass, which is good. And then it slopes up around, the Pinagin part. It doesn't have a whole lot of 1 kilohertz, but it does have a lot of 2.5, 3 kilohertz. And then you get this mound of treble energy around 8 kilohertz. And this is audible. See, a lot of times you'll get a graph with the mound of treble energy, and people will, sort of cry foul and talk about how painful the treble is. But in a lot of those cases, I feel people are hearing the graph rather than the IM. So oftentimes these IMs do not sound like the graph, trifecta being one of them. So trifecta does have a piercing treble, unless you tip roll and cable roll. And then I think with some brain burn-in, perhaps you can get used to the treble. This treble was a little more difficult for me to get used to. So I'll talk about how I did manage this treble. And finally, it's got a copious amounts of air frequencies, which are, to me, if you followed my channel, I like air frequencies. So this was welcome. However, I feel like overall, this entire region between, let's say, 8 to 15 kilohertz or 18 kilohertz, this entire region is a bit bright. So what happens then, you get this sense of a V shape because this entire region is just presented as a bit forward. And because of this treble, this IM can sound a bit metallic. So you might be wondering, if this is so trebly and metallic, is it even worth getting? My answer is it is, and I'll tell you why. Now that the cons are out of the way, let me talk about the pros. This has mid-range magic like I honestly haven't heard most other IMs to have. Mid-range magic here reminds me of the Hyphaman Susvara mid-range. It reminds me of ZMF Caldera mid-range because it's not as thick as, let's say, ZMF Autor or a VC. The mid-range magic here is just a touch of class. The mid-range resolution somehow outstrips the resolution of treble and bass, and it is as resolving as I've heard on any IM on the planet, and I think it rivals the resolution of mid-range, rivals those of the Traley, rivals that of the Irmo Audio Jewel, which are $5,000 to $6,000 IM. So this is well priced at $4,200, because a lot of you guys who'll be watching this will know that Vision Ears is just friggin' famous for mid-range, and these do not disappoint. In fact, the mid-range here is just so... I mean, the vocal performance of Chris Cornell was just out of this world. I mean, I like playing the song Temple of the Dog by Chris Cornell, and God, that album, that song especially, I mean, the way Chris Cornell sounds in that song, he sounds like a goddamn angel. So there's a way in which Vision Ears does put the spotlight on mid-range. That's something I want you to know. Because of that spotlight, you might perceive the treble as being a complement to the mid-range in bringing out nuances in the mid-range, little inflections in the singer's voice, like parsing of the singer's mouth, the singer breathing, etc. So what happens then is you start appreciating the treble, because as a complement to the mid-range, it does work. And you can tip roll, which I have. And you can cable roll, which I have. And you can use DSP on your DAP, which I have. I use the Sony W1 ZM2. And of the DSD mode, on the Sony W1 ZM2, I get a smoother treble, a beautifully smooth and languid and extended treble. So much so, this mid-range and treble combination is just friggin' fantastic. To talk about the bass, guys. So a lot of people are wondering about the bass of this IM, because the bass of a lot of other Vision Ears IMs might have left some people wanting, because they've had balanced armature drivers in a lot of their IMs, with the exception of the EX3, of course. The EX3 had pretty good bass. And the BA bass, of course, leaves a bit of wanting, leaves us wanting in terms of punch, in terms of slam, in terms of the realism of impact, in terms of the texture of impact, and all that. Of course, all that doesn't come out in the frequency response graph, but the bass here does have a dynamic driver. It has 2 dynamic drivers, in fact. In fact, I might not have covered this, but this is an 11 driver hybrid, and I apologize for not having covered this earlier. It is an 11 driver hybrid with 2 dynamic drivers and 9 balanced armature bass, with the 5-way crossover. So what you see from the graph is that the bass is extended, correct? And it is extended. It is extended. And you get sub bass. You do get sub bass. The bass is extended. In fact, there's a little bit of a peak here, right? But the point is, for whatever it's worth, the bass in relation to the overall treble energy, I feel, sounds just ever so slightly subdued. So don't get me wrong, the bass is not subdued, but it's not as hard-hitting as I hoped it would be. It's just not as hard-hitting, and there's something ever so fluttery about the quality of the bass here. See, just because something has a dynamic driver does not mean that it will just slam and punch and hit like a truck. It doesn't. Like, in terms of its bass timbre, it's reminiscent to me of, let's say, the Elysian Annihilator, which also has a dynamic driver, but the Elysian Annihilator somehow lacks a bit of that dynamic driver tactility. So that's how I would characterize this bass, which might actually be your thing, because it's not as soft in the notes, as soft in the transients, or speedy in the transients as is the case for a BA driver. But this is not as tactile as the most dynamic drivers are. I would say it's comparable to the Irmo Audio Jewel bass, although with tip rolling, I do get the Jewel bass to become slightly weightier. So it's a hyped IM, and I know people who own it have sworn by its bass as well. People are claiming its bass is also like top of the, it's top class and all that. So I think it's top class, but not my top 10 for dynamic driver bass at all. However, the mid-range is still a touch of magic, guys. So overall, as a composite, as a whole, in terms of the bass, the mid-range, and the treble, I think VE wanted the focus to be on the mid-range, where the bass and the treble frequencies are just complementing our handmaidens to the mid-range. So for that, I feel like they have achieved what they wanted to, because it is a stunningly coherent sounding IEM. You don't feel like it's an 11 driver hybrid. The drivers have a whole lot of cohesiveness to this presentation. So it sounds very coherent. Because, like I said, the mid-range is the star of the show. It is a touch of magic. The resolution in the mid-range is just phenomenal. It compares to the Jewel, which to me is one of the most resolving IEMs on the planet. Now, to talk about technical performance, overall, the resolution, I feel like it compares to the best. It is just perhaps ever so slightly 5% less than the Aroma Audio Jewel, which is fine because it's $1,000 less than the Jewel. The imaging is decent. It is not class-leading in clarity, which means, I mean, I've heard IEMs that have more clarity and blackness of background at this sort of price range, but it's not muddy or anything. It's just, in terms of image separation, it's good, it's great, but I've heard better. That's basically what I'm going to say. Even the Trifecta, perhaps, at a lower price point, has a better sort of sense of separation. So it's, and finally, in terms of dynamic punch and slam, which is sense of impact and all that for the kick drum and perhaps the bass instruments, etc., it's good. It's good. There's nothing wrong with it. So overall, guys, this is an IEM that's in some ways just a bit bright, and that makes it, you know, perhaps slightly imperfect, and it's ever so slightly soft in bass impact, which makes it ever so slightly, I think, something that you'd want to audition, especially if you're a bass head. But in many ways, this is very close to a perfectly tuned IEM. Because see, you have bass here. You can EQ the bass just a bit. Especially if you have a fine DAP like I do. The Sony W1ZM2, where the EQ works like magic. You can use tips to rein in the treble. And then the treble does become, like I said, very fluid, very sweet, very sparkly, very smooth, and very lifelike, and very articulate. The mid-range needs no tweaking. It's just the star of the show. So I'd rather have a manufacturer give me all these wonderful traits. I'm just going to take out the Music Tech website and show you, a bit about Music Tech, because I am a bit indebted to them for getting to me this very limited edition IEM, which is very difficult to get, honestly. I hope you are able to get it. I'm not sure if this IEM will still be available by the time I film this and by the time this comes out, but of course you can try your luck in the secondary market. And this IEM does in many ways give us a sense of where V is headed. So, guys, overall, in many ways, it's a perfect IEM if you are okay with tip rolling, cable rolling, and a bit of EQ. But in stock form, it is not perfect. None of the IEMs on this planet are. I mean, the Jewel is my favorite IEM, but people often dislike the Jewel, so keep that in mind. So this is my subjective take, because people feel the Jewel lacks in treble energy and it's a bit dull and boring. This is slightly less dull and boring than the Jewel in some ways, but I like what the Jewel does in terms of stage width and image separation. I like the Jewel mid-range. So I keep talking about the Jewel because in many ways this does remind me of the Jewel. It's like a slightly more exciting version of the Jewel. Although, like I said, I feel the Jewel has slightly more weight in the bass, especially with the chi-fi tips that it comes with. So that's it for these IEM, guys, and I hope this was useful for you. I just want to take you guys through the Music Tech website. So it's shop.musictech.com. I mean, I've worked with other vendors, but these guys are the masters of the IEM universe because of everything, whether the Kanpur CP622B, which is now all the rage, whether it's the Jomo Audio IEMs, whether it is the Timsock stuff that's come out, the Hibi R82, the VE10, which I'm getting in, by the way. I bought this. This is supposed to be incredible. The Aroma Fae 1 I've reviewed already. Superb IEM, albeit a bit bright. There's some QDC stuff coming out, so this is a fantastic website, of course. This product is something I'm looking forward to hearing again. This I've heard in CanJam last year. It's the Law 2 Mjolnir. I've owned the Sony DMP-Z1, which I've sold for a variety of reasons, mostly to put some money in watches. But yeah, and this has a plethora of brands and cables, and in terms of brands, I mean, it's just, they have everything. Abyss to Brise, and from Kanpur to Empire Ears, yes, they have everything. From Jomo Audio to Fur Audio to Fat Freak, Liquid Links, cables. I mean, they do carry a whole bunch of cables. So Andrew of Music Tech provided me with these IEMs, and he ships right away. He just is super friendly to work with, super knowledgeable, super interesting, and just an amazing boon to the hobby. So a big shout out to Music Tech and Andrew for being a wonderful person to work with and a wonderful friend. So that's it for me, guys. Overall, these IEMs are fantastic, but I've also talked about the caveats. So if you can audition, nothing like auditioning an IEM before you buy it. Don't blind buy this IEM, of course, and don't blind buy any IEM. Yeah, so that's about it. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye bye.